Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Mm.
Today we are going to go way beyond like the Hollywood hacker stereotype,
Mm.
you know,
Mhm.
and we're going to be talking about young people who have made waves with some serious tech skills and like real world impact.
Yeah, it's really interesting how much variety we're going to see in just like a top 10 young hackers list.
Yeah,
These aren't just kids playing pranks.
right,
These are, people building drone defense systems and getting million-dollar bug bounties and even, shaking up the world of open access.
right. And our deep dive source is really interesting because it highlights, a range of skills and impact. But honestly, some of these backstories are pretty wild.
Yeah.
So first up, we've got Blake Resnick.
Okay.
This guy built an AI-powered system called Drone Guard while he was still in high school.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So can you imagine
Yeah.
going from, coding projects in your bedroom to potentially impacting like national security?
Yeah, I mean, what's really striking to me about his story isn't just the technical ability at that age,
Right.
but it's that he really saw a real world problem and decided to jump in and try to create a solution for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Drone Guard is being used by first responders, even defense agencies now.
So what do you think about this shrinking gap between,
Yeah.
an individual who has like an innovative idea and then it quickly scales to something that's like a large scale application?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's exciting in a way that, someone with a good idea can make a difference so quickly. But it
Yeah.
also raises all these questions about the potential for misuse. Especially if someone lacks the experience to think about all the consequences.
Right. Right. Okay, well, let's move on to someone who operates in a totally different realm. So we've got Santiago Lopez, a bug bounty hunter from Argentina. This guy has earned millions finding vulnerabilities in big tech companies.
Really?
Yeah, like you
Huh.
hear about these bug bounty programs,
Right.
but it's a whole other thing to meet someone who's like made this a career.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the fact that the security landscape is shifting.
Yeah.
Companies are finally starting to realize that they can't find every single weakness in their systems on their own.
Right.
So they're turning to this like ethical hacking community
Right.
and rewarding people like Santiago to, find and responsibly disclose these vulnerabilities.
It makes you wonder like what kind of mindset you need to excel at this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not just the technical skills, right?
No, it's like being a detective.
Yeah.
Constantly searching for clues that nobody else has noticed.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we have Christopher Coco. This story is pretty wild. So he buys this tiny amount of Bitcoin back in 2009.
Okay.
Like basically forgets about it
Yeah.
and then rediscovers his investment years later,
Oh, wow.
worth over $886,000.
I mean, the value of Bitcoin has been up and down and all over the place, but this isn't just about luck. He was an early adopter. He saw the potential of cryptocurrency long before it became mainstream.
So what stands out to you about this like early adopter mindset?
Well, I think it's about staying curious and being open to new technologies,
Yeah.
even if they seem strange or risky at first.
Yeah.
It's really easy to just dismiss something new, but sometimes those early leaps of faith can lead to, massive changes,
The whole-
whether it's in finance, like with Bitcoin, or in any other field.
I love that. Okay. So let's talk about Lamore Freed, aka Lydiata.
Yep.
She is an electrical engineer, a computer scientist, and the founder of Adafruit Industries.
Yeah, Adafruit is a great example of how to actually empower people through technology.
Right.
They create open source hardware components, making it so much easier for anybody to learn about electronics and build their own projects.
Yeah, and Lamore is a huge advocate for inclusivity in tech, especially for young people and women.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one thing to build a successful business, but she's really trying to change the whole landscape of who gets to participate.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest impact comes from not just inventing something new,
Yeah.
but from making the tools of innovation available to everyone.
Okay, so now we're going way back in tech history with Joe Grand, also known as Kingpin.
Oh, wow.
He was a member of the legendary El Zorreti Hacker Collective,
Wow.
known for really pushing the boundaries of security research, even testifying before Congress.
Yeah, I mean, the IL's already played such a crucial role in raising awareness about cybersecurity, and Joe Grand was right there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
He was a master of hardware hacking, taking things apart, figuring out how they work, and sometimes even finding ways to make them do things that they weren't supposed to do.
So it seems kind of counterintuitive, but like to build better security, you need to understand how to break things.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
By understanding how hardware can be exploited, you can design much more robust systems.
Hmm.
And that's what makes his current work even more fascinating. He's gone from like exposing those vulnerabilities to training other people in hardware security,
Wow.
helping to prevent the very attacks that he was once like specializing in.
It's an interesting shift. What do you think motivated that kind of change?
It's it's hard to say for sure, but I think, the cybersecurity landscape is changing all the time.
Yeah.
So as technology advances, the methods of attack and the methods of defense need to adapt as well.
Yeah.
So maybe he just felt a sense of responsibility to share that knowledge and try to build a more secure future.
Okay, next we have Kevin Mitnick.
Okay.
So this is interesting. He was once one of those wanted hackers in the world, spent time in prison for his activities, and now
Wow.
he's a respected cybersecurity consultant advising companies on how to protect themselves from attacks.
Yeah, Kevin Mitnick's story is a great reminder that people can change, and,
Yeah.
and they can apply their skills in such dramatically different ways. I mean, he went from exploiting vulnerabilities for personal gain to actually using that knowledge to protect others. It's a pretty big transformation.
It really is. It's a reminder that that line between good and bad hacking can be blurry sometimes.
Hmm.
What do you think is like the key factor that determines which side of that line someone falls on?
Well, that's a complex question, and I don't think there's one single answer, but
Yeah.
intent plays a huge role. Are you using those skills to harm other people, or are you trying to make things more secure? Are
Well,
you driven by, just personal gain, or do you really want to make a positive impact? Those are the questions that help us understand the motivations behind both ethical and malicious hacking.
okay, so now let's talk about someone who really embodies the spirit of pushing boundaries and defying expectations. Pablos Holman, a futurist inventor, self-proclaimed hacker. He's known for his unconventional approach to problem solving and just his knack for creating unique inventions.
Yeah, he really is all about thinking outside the box.
Right.
I mean, he once hacked a coffee pot to make it tweet whenever it's brewing.
Oh, really?
Which sounds silly, but
Exactly.
it just shows his playful approach to technology and his ability to see, possibilities where other people just wouldn't.
It's like he's constantly asking, what if?
Yeah,
And then actually going and building it.
totally. And that's what makes him so inspiring. He's not afraid to experiment, he's not afraid to fail, and he's not afraid to try again.
I love that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so back to the world of security research with Charlie Miller. He's made headlines for uncovering vulnerabilities in everything from iPhones to automobiles.
Yeah, his work is a reminder that even the most sophisticated systems out there are still vulnerable to attack. He's really good at finding these tiny cracks in code or in design that can have huge implications for security.
It's almost like this high-stakes game of hide and seek, except the stakes are people's data and privacy and sometimes even physical safety.
Exactly. And his work has really forced companies to take security way more seriously
Yeah.
and invest in better protections. It's a constant battle.
Right.
But people like Charlie Miller are on the front lines making sure that our digital world is as safe as possible.
Okay, so our final hacker for this first part of our deep dive is Meredith Whittaker.
Okay.
She's a computer scientist, an AI researcher, and a very prominent voice for ethical considerations in the tech industry.
Yeah, her work is absolutely crucial in a world where AI is just becoming increasingly powerful.
Yeah.
She's been really outspoken about, the potential for AI to perpetuate biases, to invade privacy, to be used for surveillance and manipulation.
So it's not just about the technical aspects of building AI, it's about the societal impact
Yeah,
and the values that are like embedded in these systems.
exactly. She's challenging the industry to actually think about the ethical implications of AI development
Right.
and to make sure that these powerful tools are being used responsibly.
Yeah, it's a really powerful reminder that we need to be having these conversations now before these technologies become even more integrated into our lives.
I couldn't agree more. We need more voices like hers to help us navigate all these complex ethical challenges of the digital age.
Okay, so that's it for part one of our deep dive into the world of young hackers.
Yeah.
We've met some really remarkable individuals who are using their skills to shape the future of technology in profound ways.
We've seen how they're not just these like technical wizards, but they're also visionaries and activists and entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it is. And there's still so much more to uncover. So join us for part two, where we'll delve even deeper into the lives and accomplishments of these extraordinary young hackers, and we'll explore what their stories tell us about the future of technology and its impact on society.
See you soon. Bye.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of young hackers. It's pretty incredible how much these individuals have accomplished at such a young age.
It really does kind of challenge our assumptions about what's possible. They're
Yeah.
not just passively consuming technology, they're actively shaping it.
Right. And in this part, I want to go beyond just their accomplishments and try to understand what drives these young hackers.
Yeah.
What are their motivations? What are the challenges? What keeps them up at night? So let's start by going back to Blake Resnick, the creator of DroneGuard.
Okay.
What do you think sparked his interest in drone defense?
Well, we know that he was fascinated by robotics and AI, but it seems like a trip to Israel was a real turning point for him.
Okay.
He saw firsthand how drones were being used in all sorts of ways, positive and negative.
Right.
And it wasn't just theoretical anymore. He recognized the threat that drones could pose.
Yeah.
And that really sparked his desire to try and create a way to counter that.
So instead of just learning about drones, he was thinking about how to control them, how to defend against them.
Exactly. And that kind of foresight is crucial in a field that's evolving as quickly as drone technology is.
Yeah, it's like he was anticipating the next move
Mm-hmm.
in a chess game almost.
Yeah. He wasn't just building a cool gadget,
Right.
He was trying to address a real-world problem.
Okay, let's shift gears to Santiago Lopez, our bug bounty hunter.
Okay.
So we talked about his financial success.
Right.
But I imagine that this line of work comes with its own set of challenges and pressures.
Yeah.
What do you think those might be?
Well, the tech landscape is always changing, right?
Yeah.
So, staying ahead of the curve is a constant challenge. He's got to be constantly learning about new systems, new coding languages, new ways to identify vulnerabilities.
So it's like never-ending learning.
Yeah, it's a never-ending process.
And then there's the pressure of knowing that your work has real consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he misses something, it could have a huge impact on a company's security and the data of millions of users.
Yeah, and on top of all that, there's also the ethical dimension to consider.
Right.
He has to make judgment calls about which vulnerabilities to disclose, how to work with these companies responsibly, how to avoid causing any unintended harm.
So it's not just about finding the bugs, it's about knowing what to do with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think about Christopher Koch for a second, our accidental Bitcoin millionaire.
Okay.
Sure, there's the pressure of managing that kind of wealth.
Right.
But what about the psychological impact of having that kind of windfall suddenly?
That's a really interesting aspect that we don't often think about.
Yeah.
It's one thing to build wealth gradually through hard work,
Right.
but to suddenly have your life transformed overnight by a tech investment,
Yeah.
that has to have some sort of impact on your sense of self, your goals, your relationship with money.
I'd be curious to know how his perspective on technology changed after that.
Yeah.
Did it make him more likely to take risks, or did it make him more cautious?
Yeah, maybe it reinforced that idea that sometimes you have to trust your instincts and be willing to bet on something new, even if other people are skeptical.
Okay, let's talk about Lemore Freed Native Fruit.
Okay.
So, building a successful business is hard enough, but she's also taken on this role of advocate,
Right.
pushing for more inclusivity in tech.
Yeah.
How do you think she balances those two roles?
Yeah.
Running a business and trying to drive social change at the same time.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah.
But I think she's doing a fantastic job. She's really woven her values into the fabric of her company. Adafruit isn't just about selling products, it's about building a community.
Yeah.
It's about providing resources
Right.
and inspiring that next generation of makers and inventors.
It's like she's trying to change the culture of the tech industry from the bottom up.
And that kind of leadership is really important, especially in a field that has struggled with diversity and inclusion.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the world of hardware hacking with Joe Grand, a.k.a. Kingpin.
Okay.
So we know that he transitioned from exposing vulnerabilities to actually teaching other people how to prevent them.
Right.
What do you think motivates someone to make that kind of shift in their career?
Well, as someone who was, at the forefront of finding these weaknesses,
Yeah.
he's probably seen firsthand the damage that can be done when those vulnerabilities are exploited.
Right.
So maybe it's a sense of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
a desire to use his knowledge to protect other people from the same attacks that he used to specialize in.
It's like, it takes a thief to catch a thief,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it takes someone who understands how to break things to teach others how to build stronger defenses.
Exactly. And I think there's also a certain kind of satisfaction that comes from, sharing your knowledge
Yeah.
and empowering other people to create a more secure world.
Okay, so Kevin Mitnick's story is a really powerful reminder that people can change even after making serious mistakes.
Yeah.
What do you think are the key factors that contribute to that kind of transformation?
Well, it's a complex process, and I'm sure it's different for everyone.
Right.
But in Kevin Mitnick's case, I think it was a combination of things,
Yeah.
Spending time in prison forced him to confront the consequences of his actions,
Right.
and it gave him time to really reflect on his path.
And maybe he realized that his skills could be used for good instead of for harm.
Yeah, maybe he realized that he could use his knowledge to help people rather than exploit them.
Right. It's a reminder that even people who make serious mistakes can find redemption and use their talents to make a positive impact.
I agree.
Okay, so I want to talk about Pablo Holman's infectious enthusiasm for pushing the boundaries of technology.
Yeah.
What do you think is the key to his creativity and his willingness to experiment?
I think it's a combination of curiosity, a playful spirit, and a willingness to embrace failure.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to try new things, even if they seem a little crazy or impractical.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to take himself too seriously.
Not at all. And that's what's so refreshing about him.
Yeah.
He reminds us that technology can be fun, that it can be used to express our creativity and explore the world in new ways.
Okay, so now for someone who approaches technology with a very analytical and critical eye, let's consider Charlie Miller.
Okay.
He's gained this reputation for finding vulnerabilities in systems that most people assume are secure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think drives him to keep pushing the limits of security research?
I think it's a deep-seated curiosity
Yeah.
and a desire to really understand how things work, even if it means breaking them in the process.
Yeah.
He's not content to just accept things at face value.
Right.
He wants to dig deeper,
Mm-hmm.
find the hidden flaws that other people might miss.
It's not just about finding the flaws, though. It's
Yeah.
about understanding how they can be exploited and what the consequences might be.
Exactly. It's like he's playing this high-stakes game of chess with technology, always trying to anticipate the next move.
And by exposing those vulnerabilities, he's forcing companies to up their game
Yeah.
and improve their security practices, which benefits all of us.
For sure.
Okay, so let's shift gears to Meredith Whittaker, our AI ethics advocate.
Okay.
So we've talked about her concerns about the potential negative impacts of AI.
Right.
But what do you think are the most effective ways to address those concerns?
Well, I think it's not enough to just acknowledge the risks we have to actively try to mitigate them.
Yeah.
And that means building AI systems with ethical considerations in mind from the very beginning.
So it's not just about the code itself, it's about the values
Exactly.
that guide the development.
We need diverse teams of developers, ethicists, social scientists,
Yeah.
all working together to make sure that AI is actually aligned with human value
Right.
and that it's being used to benefit society as a whole.
And we need to be having open and honest conversations about the potential risks and benefits of AI
Absolutely.
so that we can make informed decisions about how it's developed and deployed.
Yeah, a conversation that needs to involve everyone, not just people who work in tech.
Right. Finally, let's remember Aaron Swartz,
Okay.
the programming prodigy and activist who dedicated his life to making information more freely available. His legacy continues to inspire people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we translate that inspiration into action?
Well, I think it starts by recognizing that access to information is a fundamental human right.
Yeah.
We need to challenge laws and policies that restrict that access and support organizations that are fighting for a more open and equitable internet.
It's about advocating for transparency, accountability, the free flow of information both online and offline.
And it's about empowering individuals to become active participants in the digital world to create, to share, to challenge the status quo.
What a powerful message to carry forward as we wrap up this part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of young hackers. It has been a whirlwind of stories, from AI-powered drone defense to the complexities of bug bounty hunting.
Yeah. It's amazing how much ground we've covered, and yet, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Each of these individuals represents, a different facet of this whole hacking world.
Right.
And their stories raise some really big questions about the future of technology and its impact on society.
Yeah. In this last part, I kind of want to zoom out a bit and explore some of those bigger themes that have come up.
Right.
We've talked about the ethical spectrum of hacking,
Right.
the good, the bad, the blurry areas in between. What are your thoughts on how that plays out in the real world?
Well, I mean, the line between ethical hacking and malicious hacking is often, defined by intent.
Right.
But it's not always black and white.
Right.
Take Kevin Mitnick, for example. He
Right.
went from being, this notorious hacker to a respected security consultant.
Right.
And his story shows us that even someone who's crossed that line can actually use their skills for good.
It's almost like a redemption arc is possible in the hacking world. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder how someone makes that shift, from exploiting vulnerabilities to protecting systems.
I think a lot of it comes down to recognizing the impact of your actions.
Yeah.
When you see firsthand, the damage that hacking can cause,
Yeah.
it can be a really powerful motivator to kind of change your course and use your knowledge to help others instead.
Meredith Whittaker's story also highlighted the importance of whistleblowers
Mm-hmm.
in the tech industry. It takes a lot of courage to speak out against those unethical practices.
Absolutely. It does, especially when you're facing potential backlash from really powerful companies.
Yeah. Whistleblowers are so important.
So they are.
They shine a light on these issues that might otherwise remain hidden,
Right.
and they force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the technology that we create and use.
It makes you wonder, what kind of support systems we need to have in place to protect these whistleblowers
Yeah.
and encourage more people to come forward, when they see something wrong.
Absolutely. We need to create a culture where people feel safe speaking up
Yeah.
without fear of retaliation.
We need strong legal protections for whistleblowers. And, we need to foster this culture of transparency and accountability
Right.
within these tech companies.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, I'm fascinated by this idea of democratizing technology,
Mm-hmm.
which Lamore Freed really embodies with Adafruit.
Mm-hmm.
Making electronics and engineering accessible to everyone is such a powerful way to break down barriers and empower individuals.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about leveling the playing field and giving everyone the tools to create and innovate.
Right.
When you remove those technical hurdles and you make knowledge freely available,
Yeah.
it opens up all these possibilities for people who might not have had access before.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how the tech landscape would be different if we had, more initiatives like Adafruit,
Mm-hmm.
more people who are focused on making technology accessible and inclusive,
Right.
rather than exclusive and profit-driven.
I think we would see this huge burst of creativity and innovation
Yeah.
as people from all different walks of life, brought their unique perspectives and experiences to the table.
Right, right. And Aaron Swartz's fight for open access to information really ties into this idea, too.
Yeah, it does.
He believed that information should be freely available to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
not locked behind paywalls or controlled by a select few.
Yeah, his legacy reminds us that access to information is absolutely essential for a free and informed society.
Yeah.
When we restrict access to knowledge, we stifle innovation and limit our collective potential as humans.
Right. It's a tough balance.
It is.
We have to find the right balance between protecting intellectual property
Mm.
and ensuring that knowledge is shared freely.
Mm-hmm.
It's complex.
Yeah.
We've also touched on this theme of unintended consequences.
Right.
Blake Resnick's DroneGuard is a great example of that.
Yeah.
He set out to solve a specific problem,
Yeah.
this threat of malicious drones.
Mm-hmm.
But his invention kind of raises all these questions about the broader implications of anti-drone technology.
It shows how technology can be a double-edged sword. While DroneGuard has the potential to protect people and infrastructure, it also raises concerns about privacy surveillance, the potential for misuse.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we have to think critically about the potential consequences of our creations,
Absolutely.
both positive and negative.
We can't just focus on solving the immediate problem.
Right.
We have to consider the long-term impact as well.
And be willing to adapt as technology changes.
Right. What seems like a good solution today might have unintended consequences tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to wrap up by talking about Pablo Holman's infectious enthusiasm
Mm-hmm.
and his willingness to experiment. He's a reminder that technology can be fun.
It can.
That can be a tool for exploring the world in creative ways.
I think that sense of playfulness is crucial,
Yeah.
especially in a field that can often, feel very serious or overly focused on profit. Right.
When you approach technology with curiosity and a willingness to experiment, you open yourself up to these unexpected discoveries and innovations.
Yeah, it's like he's reminding us to not take ourselves too seriously,
Mm.
to allow ourselves to be playful and curious.
To see the world through the eyes of a child
Yeah.
who's always asking why and what if.
And to remember that failure is just part of the process.
It is. It's not the opposite of success. It's just a step in the way.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the world of young hackers, I'm feeling really inspired.
Me too.
You know, these individuals are not just tech savvy, they're visionaries, they're change makers, they're problem solvers, and they're using their skills to shape the future.
Your stories remind us that technology is this incredibly powerful tool,
Yeah.
and it's up to us to use it wisely, ethically.
Right.
And for a purpose, we have to be thoughtful about the choices we make and consider the consequences of our actions and work together to create a future where technology benefits everyone. It's a call to action for all of us to embrace our inner hacker, to be curious, to experiment, to use our knowledge and skills to make a positive impact on the world.
And to remember that age is not a barrier to innovation.
I love that.
The young hackers that we've met today are proof that anyone with passion, creativity, and a willingness to learn can make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep hacking the world for good.